Welcome back. So, the pulley rig. To me, the pulley rig is the ultimate rig. You can use this for everything. It doesn't even necessarily need to be for rough ground. So I'm just going to take you through how I would make it personally, and then at the end I'm going to talk about certain things that other anglers probably don't think about when you're making a rig for a specific mark that you're fishing, specifically for the pulley rig. So the things you're going to need: a hook. Regardless, like I said, this is an all-round rig, so the size of the hook is going to depend on what it is that you're fishing for. I think the normal hook size would be a 1/0. You know, you can't really go wrong with a 1/0 unless you're trying to like catch condors. Going to need 2 beads. Doesn't really matter the colour. You know, beads are beads. I think these are 5mm. Swivels. I actually want to talk about these swivels. These swivels are called power swivels. I don't know who it is that makes them. This is a size 5 and it's £300 breaking strain. Most other tackle companies that make swivels of this size, that would probably only be about £95 breaking strain. So it's not exactly 300, but it's £295 breaking strain, which is crazy. So I use these for congering as well, because they are, you know, trying to keep everything small so it doesn't get stuck. Power swivels, definitely look into them. So you need 2 swivels. The line, I already said this, power flex. I cannot stress enough how important this is, not the line. If you're casting 6-ounce leads, you want to times your rig body by 10 times the weight that you're casting. So like I said before, most of my weight that I will be casting is 6 ounces. Just in case, I always go up to £70, even though I wouldn't need to, it would only need to be 60. £70, £80, you can't go wrong. If you're using something's too light, and like I said before, you snap off and hit somebody, especially with a lead, 6-ounce lead, you'll fucking kill them. Sorry for the swearing. Hook snouts, I would generally use £40 amnesia. You don't need to use amnesia. Like I said, this is an all-round rig, so if you're going for flounders, I would also use fluorocarbon for the more finicky fish. £40 amnesia gives you, you know, a bit of give, you know, rubbing against rocks, or, you know, shingle chaffing against, or whatever that word is. You don't really want to go too light unless you are fishing something like a clean sandy beach. Start off with your rig body. I pull this out of my arm out far and bring it to my other shoulder. Like I said, I'm going to talk a wee bit more in depth to do with this. You're fishing rough ground, rotten bottom. If you're not, different clips that you can clip down with. This is a Gemini improved splashdown clip. This is one 90% of the time I go for. Reason being is because it locks in place. This is a breakaway one. Like you can see, it doesn't lock it in place. It's still free flowing, comes off. The whole purpose of clipping it down is to keep it more aerodynamic. You will cast further with it. I'm going to go through different types of rotten bottoms after I've made the rig, because like I said, this rig is primarily for rough ground, but just for the sake of the video I will just use the splashdown rig. I'm going to do a video on knots, but just for the sake of this video I'm not going to talk anything to do with the knots. I'm just going to quickly thing. So do your knot, clip that up, cut the tag end off. Sweet. Take a bead, put it down the rig body. You don't need to use a swivel. You can use, there's specifically made can't even remember what is it, like a pulley bead or something like that. There's a couple of different companies. Swivel works as well. It all does the same thing really. I think that's just more of a manufacturer's trying to get their arm in. So swivel on, another bead. This is what you have free flowing on your line. You're not tying anything down. That is what your main line is going to attach to, that swivel. You take your second bead. This is a really simple rig to make, especially once you get going and sort of understand it. You can sit and make loads. Definitely make more than one rig before you go out fishing. Especially if you're fishing rough ground, like, because you're not looking to be sitting there all night making rigs while fishing. There you go, that is your rig body. Swivel attached, Gemini splashdown clip. 2 beads, the beads are just there to buffer up against your knot, so the swivel doesn't hit it. If you get something and it hits it really hard, it could break your knot. You need to remember the knot is under tension. Your hook snout. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to use fluorocarbon. Now this is £50, but it's like really low diameter. It's for match fishing. Bring some of that out. My general rule of thumb, just as a starting point, bring it out to my arm and bring it to my first shoulder. That's it. This is where I'm going to cut it. Once again, nothing to do with knots, just tie it on with whatever knot that you use, or if you're new to it, I'll teach you a few knots in the next video anyway. Take your hook, of course, tie it on as well. Wouldn't be the knot I would generally use for your hooks. Generally change the knot up slightly when it comes to hooks. This is the rig. It's the pulley rig. Let me just put a lid on here and I'll show you if I can get the splashdown thing to actually open. Bit of line from earlier. This I would generally use one of these here on the end of my main line, unless I'm fishing rough ground, because that's another component that you're going to lose. Clip that onto the running swivel. When you have a bait up, say mackerel head or whatever it might be, that you sort of make sure there's plenty of hook. Put it into the splashdown. Just like that. It's all streamline. Cast it hard as you want. £70, you're not going to break it unless you're like competition casting or whatever it may be. Then you might need to go up. But yes, that's the pulley rig. This is the end all be all rig that you can literally use anywhere. This hits water. See how it sort of just popped out? This is how that'll sit in the water. Now I'm going to show you a wee diagram. Don't worry about the professional Photoshop skills in the next wee bit to do with the pulley rig. And it's to do with really adapting this rig to where it is that you're fishing. So I hope this rig helps you. Like I said, you can use this rig anywhere. You can use it, even use this for rays. Like I said, you want it on the bottom. As long as there's not a like heavy tidal flow, you'll find that this will still actually catch rays on the bottom. So yeah. Let's talk about the different rattan bottoms then. I'll move the camera, bring it closer and show you different things. So there's loads of different rattan bottoms on the market. You've breakaway ones and stuff. For me, these are cheap. These work. You could actually make these yourself if you wanted to. But I think it was like £6 or something for like 1,000 of these, which you're going to lose. It's a part of it. It's really, really simple. You're where you would be tying your line, where your weight would normally be, would attach to there. You get weaker line. I generally use £15. And you just tie it on to this loop, then tie it onto your weight. Then when you're going to cast out, you put the weight in here, bring it over and push the bead down. So that's the way it's going to be whenever you're casting. When you cast out and this hits the water, this will push up and release the weight. You will then be on the weak piece of line. So it means if you get snagged, you pull it, the weak line breaks, you lose the lead, but you still get the rest of the rig back and or the fish. So that's one version of it. The canny link. This was one I was talking about earlier on. This is actually Tronic's version of it. It has a bait clip, so you can clip it up for casting out big distance, and then it also has the bit for the lead itself. Once again, you'd be using a weak piece of line, tying it to the loop, and then tying it to the loop of the actual lead. So then whenever it hits the water, it comes undone. You're on the weak lead or the weak piece of line again. But like I was saying earlier on, if you're pulling this way, and it's like this, where that hook, it will get stuck. If I don't really know how to explain it, but if there's loads of rocks, use this loop as an example, it will get stuck and you will end up losing it. So I'm not really a big fan of these. They work sometimes, but I do find that you do get stuck a lot more when using these, and I probably would put it down to just that wee hook there. Bait clips. Most people would use these like pretty much everywhere, instead of using like splashdown clips or the breakaway ones. Like, they're cheaper and like you don't really mind losing them. If you were to tie, use this as an example. This is where your weight would go. If you were to tie it like this, upside down, then you clip your lead, and if I get it into the hole, that's what she said. It's harder whenever it's not attached to the line. Both of the hooks, put both hooks on. That is another way of doing it. Once again, weak piece of line, both loops. That weak piece of line to here, weak piece of line to here. But whenever you're casting out, put the two hooks together. This, I wouldn't really say this is a super safe one. Most of our coast, you don't really need to cast that far. You will find that this probably will come off though, every now and then whenever you cast. Once again, same problem with the canny link. You have a hook facing towards the way that you're trying to pull your line, so there's a good chance of that getting stuck. Loads of other ones on the market, but for me, like I said, these here ones, they're cheap. You could make them yourself, and very rarely they fail. Don't fix what's not broken. So let me just move the camera out again, and then I'll talk to you about changing the pulley rig up. So you've seen sort of how I would measure rig body, hook snoods. But say you're fishing a mark, and I'm going to use this as an example, because this is, I know, somewhere where I've had to change it up. Tor head. You go up to Tor head in a clear day, you can see it's all weed beds. And if you're using a rig that's 3 to 4 foot long, you cast into that weed bed, you're in real deep into the weed bed, you're not getting back out again. Sometimes you need to change things up based on the ground that you're fishing, whether it be rocks or whether it be kelp beds. Like I said, this rig is primarily used for of rough ground. So if you're fishing really big, heavy weed beds, I would generally make the rig body longer. If you think about it, you're making the rig body longer, then you're higher up in the water column. You generally find, especially with the likes of seaweed and stuff like that there, pollock, wrasse, stuff like that there, they're going to come up. That's why people spin along the top, like using lures. Unless you're using weedless, then people are using them in the weed. They will come up and take the bait if it's just above the weed. So that's primarily where you want to be, like a foot from the top of the weed, a foot in the weed or a foot just above the weed. Like that's pretty much the hot spot. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be like smack bang in the middle of the weed. You're not getting back out again if you don't have a fish and you're trying to bring it in to change the bait. There will still be smaller fish that's going to pick the bait. Rocks. Let's talk a wee bit about rocks. General rule of thumb, still here. Here's a diagram. Like I said, excuse the Photoshop skills. If you look at the diagram, you can see your rig body's straight, but your hook snood is flowing. Your hook will get stuck in rocks. It's a sharp object. It will get stuck in rocks. So make your hook snoods shorter. And if you make your hook snood shorter, my general rule of thumb, especially for the likes of really rocky marks, I brought fluorocarbon and I went to my shoulder. I would go to my forearm, maybe a foot. You can maybe even go down shorter than that. Try and make them short, so then when your line comes down, it's sitting off it slightly. It's not enough for it to. Now there will still be times where there'll be big massive rocks or underneath the water that, regardless of the hook length, it's just where you've cast, it's going to get stuck on that rock. So make them shorter if you're fishing rocky marks. Like I keep saying, the whole purpose of it is to try and minimise the amount of gear that you're losing. So just always something to take into consideration whenever you're going to a mark, especially if it's a mark that you don't know. You've never fished it before, or maybe you've stumbled across a mark that nobody fishes, because most of our coast, people always fish the same marks. It's like, go have a bit of an adventure, go and try something. If I was going to go and look and fish a new mark that no one has ever fished, or me personally have never fished, pulley rig. But like I said, you show up to it, you cast out, right, and getting stuck. Is it weed or is it rocks? Okay, it's big weed beds. I need to make my rig bodies longer. No, it's rocks, right? I need to make my hook snood shorter. I said this in the rough ground video. Viking hooks. If you don't know what Viking hooks are, they're not these. Viking hooks, they're made for uptiding and for rough ground. You can also use fine wire hooks. Me personally, I wouldn't use fine wire hooks, because if you end up with a big fish on, it will bend the hook out. Hence the reason why a lot of people would use fine wire. It bends out. Viking hooks also do the same. They will bend out, but if you end up with a big fish on them, they'll not break or bend out. So Camazon hooks and I think it's mustard. Camazons are the uptiding ones, and the mustard are Viking ones. They're two hooks that you want to be using if you're rough ground fishing. From literally, I've used 2 hook flappers using size 1 Viking hooks because the ground was mixed. There was patches where it was sand and patches where it wasn't. You do need to sort of adapt your rig to where it is that you're fishing. If I'm going to Ramore Head, where it is a mixture of weed and rocks, I would probably shorten my hook snood and not my rig body. It's crazy deep water, but you want to still be in the kill zone, but you don't want to be getting snagged on the rocks. So that's pretty much what I can tell you about the pulley rig. This is the ultimate rig. Like I said, I can't stress this enough, to do with rig bodies, not even just rig bodies, shock leaders as well. you need it to be 10 times the weight that you're casting. I go up slightly just to be sure. Sometimes I will end up casting 7 ounces, sometimes I end up casting 8 ounces if I'm in Loch Swilly, because of the currents. Sometimes you don't really have a choice. McGilligan Point is the same. 8 ounce grip leads ain't holding bottom, so you need to up your rig bodies and your shock leaders. And so I hope that helps. This would pretty much be my go-to rig. Like I said, you can change the hook snoods up. You don't need to use 50 pound fluorocarbon. I generally use 40 pound Amnesia. You don't need to use 4 hooks. Don't need to use Sakuma hooks either. You can literally go right down. You can also panel this, which is what I was using for the flounders at Longfield. Literally all that is, you put a hook on, you don't tie it, and then you put another hook on and you actually tie it. And whenever you bring it up, you wrap it round and then tighten your line, and it just gives you 2 hook points. Wouldn't use it on rough ground though. More hooks, more tackle loss, more chances of getting snagged. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about the pulley rig. So I hope that helps. Hopes it gives you a wee bit more indication, especially to do with sort of adapting to where it is that you're fishing. A lot of people don't do that and wonder why they're either not catching or losing 60-70 pound in tackle, terminal tackle, when they go and try and fish a mark that they don't really know. Change it up, adapt to it, and hopefully it brings you in a couple more fish, if anything. So thanks for watching.